Hi, howdy, hello. Welcome to episode 2 of the MADK podcast. Woo!
Yeah!
Woo! Okay, this episode's theme is disability, and I am the host. Woo! I am Mary Mendez. Yeah, what?
Oh, I was asking if you already said your name.
Oh, okay, that's fair. Well, I just did, so why don't you say your name?
I'm Allie Morris, yeah.
I'm Deja Andrewen.
And I'm Kaylani Weddington.
Okay, so, speaking of disability, what are you guys, like, knowledge about, like, that? Like, what, like, first of all, what do you think the definition of, like, a disability is? Just, like,
I can give it a try. I think in terms of thinking about disability, I think it's something that can be defined as like maybe some type of condition or like some type of condition that could hinder somebody's ability to do certain things or process certain things. That's my best guess at it.
anyone else want to say, or is that good?
That's good.
That's good? Sweet. Deja, as we call you Deja, you're not Deja, you're Deja.
Oh my god, my alter ego. How did I find out?
Evil twin.
Evil twin.
Okay, but
you gotta leave.
It's your Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
But Deja, you hit it right on the mark. That's pretty well according to Google. That's exactly what a disability is. It's a mental or physical condition that limits a person's movements, senses, or activities. Thank you, Google. Sorry, go ahead.
That's crazy how I always get things right. It's kind of.
It's crazy how I'm always so perfect and correct and all the time.
Not perfect. You saw me earlier today.
Okay, so since the topic is representation, let's talk about bad representation first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about a certain thing. Now, I'm not going to say the second word of this like terminology, but it's called inspiration with a P. That's what it's called.
Oh, I saw the notes.
Yeah.
Adult content.
Adult content. Yes, that. So
18 plus content.
yes, that. So there's no precise definition of inspiration. That it's so hard to describe, but this is picked up from Forbes, by the way. Thank you, Forbes. Yeah, they're not watching
Shout
this,
out
but
Forbes.
You're the best.
so basically, it's like some examples are like you'll hear a news story of a student with Down syndrome being elected prom king or queen, expected as an admirable act of charity, assuming that like someone with like Down syndrome couldn't get it in the first place. And they're like, oh, everyone else who did it is so kind and nice, you know. Things like profiles of disabled graduates that focus mostly on the sacrifices of family members or friends instead of on the actual journey of the person who is disabled, you know, or the actual disabled person. It's like they tend to focus on, oh, you sacrifice so much for this person who's such a burden, you know. It's like so the point of like this inspiration is to like make the person like make the normal quotation marks people feel better about themselves. Have you guys ever seen something like this before?
Absolutely. There's so many, I guess, talking on real life stories. So my sister, shout out to Diani if you're gonna be watching this. But so my sister, she has a disability, and she's constantly informing me about, I guess, all kinds of news regarding like neurodivergent news, disability news, stuff like that. And I always hear stories, and one of the things that she does not like the most is that how it's always portrayed that specifically with people with like say autism, Down syndrome, ADHD, Asperger's syndrome, stuff like that. They're always displayed in like these stories of just like, oh, they're hyper intelligent and like they're hyper intelligent or really like smart and like it's like a stereotypical image of these people, and it feels bad because it's like you put on this expectation on these people, and then when they don't actually like, I guess, fit that expectation, it's like, oh, then you're weird.
Yeah.
And it's really disgusting because I mean, we do that with like people like neurotypical people all the time. So imagine how it feels, especially with like neurodivergent people. They process emotions differently, they process thoughts differently. So if we think it's bad to like put on expectations on people, imagine how they feel about hearing that all the time. And you know, they internalize emotions in different ways. So I'm trying to think of like a story, but nothing is coming to mind. But I've absolutely seen stuff like that where it's just like, oh, you've sacrificed so much for your child with autism, and it's just like, well, first of all, you messed up twice. First of all, why are you making it seem like taking care of an autistic child is a burden? And then secondly, it's autistic child, not a child with autism.
Yes, exactly. Okay, thank you. Yes, Deja popped off. Let's go. Let's go.
Yay.
Like, it's like technically the people who are like participating in inspiration adult content.
NSFW.
And it's 18 plus after hour. No.
Twitters.
Twitter.
Reddit, Twitter. Anyway.
But typically the people who are doing that, like, they're not doing anything wrong. It's just the broad implications are typically good. Judging them as inspiration that isn't without criticizing what happened to these depictions, but rather how they were put together, by whom, and how they're using, like, circulated, you know? So the situations themselves aren't bad by themselves, but it's just the way that they're displayed and used, but to the general public, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So another bad part of representation, and I'm not sure if there's like a term for it, this is just something that like I've noticed, is what I like to call, I don't know if this is actually a word for it, but the ooification of disability.
Oh.
So, I don't know, if you've been on, let's say, I don't know, TikTok, you've probably seen those, like,
Yep.
Yeah.
if you do this, you
Yep.
probably have anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
Those are so harmful and bad. Like, I don't, like, some of the people, I'm not saying that the people who make them don't have those disabilities, but they lead to a lot of people, like, not really, you know, understanding disabilities properly. Like,
yeah.
okay, purely, like, I'm assuming, have any of you guys done research on ADHD?
Not really.
Okay, based on what you've heard, like, just around, what do you think is going on with people with ADHD?
Okay, so for me, I have a little bit of a different experience because I don't do research on ADHD, but I do have people in my life that have ADHD. So at least from what I know, if we're going to talk, like, I guess from a stereotypical standpoint, a lot of people think that people with ADHD are, like, I guess, super hyperactive. Like, super hyperactive, they can't really focus that well and stuff like that. Or it's kind of like, there's this TikTok of this guy. You've seen the one. Have you seen the one where it's like the butterfly? Where he's like, I was filming a TikTok and my ADHD kicked in. Where he was like doing a TikTok doing the dances and he sees a little butterfly. He's like, oh, look at the butterfly.
Oh my god. Dude, that's like, first of all, that's like a trope. Like, oh, look, a squirrel, you know? That's so
Yeah.
like, okay. But second, I just want to talk about, like, because I have personal experience with ADHD.
Yeah.
What's going on in ADHD people, you know, I say that as like other people. It's me too. I have that. Like, in their brain, what's happening is that our serotonin receptors are a little bit broken, meaning that we don't get happiness from a lot of things. Which sounds very different from all the stereotypes you hear. You hear distraction, you hear hyperactivity, but the reason why that happens is because we don't get a lot of happiness from certain things. Like, if we find something good, we won't, like, immediately get happiness from it. It's a little bit broken. I may be paraphrasing once again, like, you know, not 100% perfect, but basically, what something might give us a little bit of happiness, and we'll move on to the next thing, and we'll move on to the next thing. So it gives the illusion of loss of focus, but really we're just trying to look for that small bit of serotonin, you know?
Yeah.
Which sounds very different to what, like, is really typically told in, you know, media and things like that. So, you know.
I wanted to continue again with the ADHD thing. I know that a lot of it, like, we have, like, I guess, stereotypical views of it, and to be quite honest, I don't know everything about ADHD. Sure, I have members or family members family members and friends in my life that, like, do have ADHD, and I do see, like, I guess, how they act and stuff, but 100%, I will never say, like, I know everything about ADHD, because I don't have it, and it's not really that, like, in a big or a major part in, like, my life that I see. But I do know one thing about ADHD is that I think I've learned this just from, like, not only a family friend, but also Marion. I don't know if this is stereotypical, but it seems that a lot of people with ADHD ADHD people tend to forget a lot. Have a tendency to forget.
So the thing is with, like, at least from my personal experience, because ADHD is, like, not just by itself. It's one of those things that brings with it a ton of different other things.
Yeah.
So it's really rare you'll see a case with ADHD by itself. So, like, for example, at least with me, when I forget things, it's typically because I don't find, like, writing them down to be useful, because I'll never check where I wrote it down or things like that. And because my brain has, like, 7 different things, like, on it at the same time, I'll be like, oh, I'll think about that later, and it's gone, you know? But at least that's just with me. Some people have really great memory with, like, ADHD. Like, I'll remember very small things about people because I'm like, oh, that makes me happy. I remember that of them. But if it's something small that I need to do, I'm like, oh, I hate that. Never mind, it's gone. So, after having our thoughts gathered, this is very professional. Disability is one of those things that's, like, not really like properly talked about in a way that makes sense. Like how like first thing that comes to your mind when you think of disability in like media or like in cartoons or anything.
I'll let you guys speak because I've been speaking.
I think of Glee.
Okay, this is something I don't know, so could you elaborate?
Elaborate.
Well, in Glee there is a autistic character named Becky. I skip episodes and episodes of Glee at a time, so I don't know if they've ever addressed it. But she is autistic, but like she has like a small but I guess powerful role because like she has a disability. But like it's not like because I feel like Glee as a show it represents a lot of social identities, which is what our podcast is about. You know, like gender norms, sexuality, racism, and POC representation. And I think disabilities is like one of the things that they don't
really
cover.
touch on.
Yeah.
They
they have a kid in a wheelchair, and they're like, oh, diversity. But,
It's like
paraplegic.
yeah.
He's
Yeah.
paraplegic.
But-
Check.
like
But in reality, like the guy who played him is not.
Oh.
Like they just put him there for flavor.
Oh, so performative.
Yeah.
I was gonna.
And also, it wasn't like a genetic thing. Like he got in an accident,
Oh.
and so he got paralyzed.
Well,
that's always like what happens though. Like I don't know, you rarely see like I think the only time that I've seen where it's like an actual like disability and not like oh they got into an accident was in like South Park with this is actually not something in my notes but this character I think is Timmy.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and he's actually like he's treated normally. Like it's acknowledged, but it's not like pointed out to the point where it's just like OMG wheelchair, you know. It's like it's normal, and he's treated like just like anyone else would treat a person.
Well, sorry. We were talking about this earlier with like I guess representation about disabilities, and I was gonna be perfectly honest. There's only so few characters I can name that have a disability, but like it just goes on to say like disability is something that's not really represented that much in entertainment in general. So like for example, Sesame Street, they had the character Julia. Julia is autistic, so she's an autistic Muppet, and you know, I think it's good the way they represented her because you know she's a kid and she's just treated normally, and then they even address that sometimes like because she's autistic she's sensitive to sounds and like certain you know like certain things can like you know trigger like you know certain reactions and stuff like that. So I think it's good that they acknowledge that and are teaching little kids that. But the other thing is The Good Doctor. I don't know if anybody's watched that. I actually have not watched it, but I do know it. The main character, forgot his name, he's the same kid that played Charlie from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Same kid. He's never, I think it was like the whole premise is that he saves somebody's life. He saves somebody's life and he has no medical experience whatsoever. And the whole point is that like he's autistic and like they saw that he saved somebody's life and they want to hire him at the hospital and stuff like that. And so he has like no medical experience whatsoever. So I feel like for me I can't give my full thoughts, but it just sounds really like going back to the same thing of talking about like, oh, they're super smart, these people are super smart, and not saying that's a bad thing, it's not. Of course like people with like disabilities or disabled people can be smart. Nobody's saying that they can be like dumb or like you know like not intelligent and stuff like that. Nobody's saying that. It's just that it's overplayed and kind of stereotypical to make it seem like, oh, well, these people are exceptionally smart. And I think that goes back to like there's a lot of people that in history had like disabilities and they were seen as like super smart. So like I think for example, was it Albert Einstein? Albert Einstein apparently had a disability.
What was it?
Asperger's syndrome?
Really?
I think. I could be wrong.
Let's fact check that actually.
Fact check before somebody is like, no, that actually did not happen.
That is not correct. Because according to the encyclopedia...
Yeah, let's fact check.
Fact check.
Google.
His speech was delayed. He has dyslexia.
Oh. See, that's pretty cool, though. I don't know, it's some...
Well, no, he did have autism / Asperger's.
See? It's, or at least it's suspected and stuff like that. So, I think it's cool to see that, like, you know, even famous figures in history have disabilities, but it kind of feels weird how it's... I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say, it kind of feels weird how it's always, like, disability is always put as, like, an afterthought. And, like, even, like, in history, it's like, we don't really hear about those people and stuff like that. Like, we don't really hear about, oh, like, here's the greats who had disabilities and,
Right.
you know, the different forms they had and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah we don't really hear about that. So, going on to what you were going to say.
I think Allie wanted to say something,
Yes.
actually.
Oh, yeah.
I had a power thought.
Okay.
You see, because I remember... Does anyone remember when it came out that Sia was an ableist?
Yes. I remember
And
that.
it was because, so, like, she started getting into the filmmaking business. She was like, I want to make movies now.
Oh!
And
Yes.
she had this, you know, her and Maddie Ziegler are, like, besties because of, like, you know, the chandelier, you know, her freaking, what's your name?
I don't know who you're talking about, but I think I know where this is going.
And she got called out because she was trying to make a movie with a main character who was autistic, like the character, but she wanted Maddie Ziegler, who is not autistic, to play that. And so, like, people who would audition for the role who actually were autistic, like, she was just, like, very dismissive and stuff towards them.
I remember
and so,
hearing
like, she
about that.
doesn't, like, even though she's been called out, she doesn't want to correct her wrongs.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is just a lot of people in general.
I think I don't know if this, I could be, like, hallucinating, but, like, I think Sia did end up apologizing, but it was, like, a really bad apology. Like, a really bad, like, it's like, I'm sorry,
Well,
that's it.
I don't really know much about Sia, even though we share the same birthday, you know, Sagittarius besties.
I mean, I'm not talking about, I know everyone on my birthday, like.
Yeah. But just, I don't think she has experience with autism.
She's not.
Like, no, like,
Yeah.
I don't think she's autistic, and I don't know if anyone in her, you know, family or personal life is autistic. But it's just like, why do you want to make movies about something you don't want to get educated about before?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this is not to say that you can't make a movie about something that you haven't personally experienced. It's more about, you have to learn about it, right?
Definitely research.
And, like,
Yeah.
educate and communicate.
Hence the reason why we have a podcast.
Yay!
The whole purpose of this. Well, can we explain that a little bit? Tangent.
Yeah.
The whole reason why we have this podcast,
Wait.
besides, huh?
I wanted to explain it.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
you can explain it.
You
Oh,
explain
okay.
it.
The whole reason we have this podcast is not only because it's a senior project, but also because we want to inform people about the representation that you see in entertainment. Through entertainment, that is usually where you get to see that representation for the first time. So, imagine living in the rural South, white people, you know, and you see a black person or somebody who's Hispanic or somebody, like, you know, like, you see those POC people on TV. That's usually how you get your representation or see them, and how they are represented is what develops in your mind and develops that image of how you see those people. So it really can make or break somebody's viewing of these people. And then obviously, not only that, the people in their lives influence them how to feel about certain people. And that's why it's really important to, like, not only have, like, good representation, but also to inform people on that kind of stuff, so that if you're a content creator hoping to make content in the future talking about this kind of stuff, take note and, like, things to look out for. It's not only important to have good representation in entertainment, but it's also important to have these people informed. So, like, if you're a content creator, you're hoping to involve certain people in your content, you need to research that thoroughly to make sure that they're being properly represented, and you're not only hurting people in the process, but you're also not misinforming people in the process, and that applies to both content creators who want to diversify entertainment, and that also applies to people who might be a little bit ignorant and stuff like that.
I want to say this is not your research, just so you know. We are not your 100% source about everything.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just trying to
We're high schoolers.
We're trying to start the conversation.
We're teenagers.
Yeah.
We're high schoolers about to go on to college.
Yeah.
So take some of the stuff we say with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
We are not sociologists.
Yeah.
We have not studied this for years. We do not have masters in these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are just a couple of goofballs doing goofball stuff, and just trying to be decent time. We're just trying to start the conversation.
The conversation and also walk the stage at graduation. So.
Well, I don't think start the conversation.
Not the start a murmur, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Continue the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're still. We might be saying something wrong. We're still learning.
Yeah.
We might be like, oh shoot, I said that in my podcast.
Yeah.
In a couple years, I know I'm gonna look back at this. Man, I said that.
Yeah, there's definitely gonna be a couple of moments in here where we might be like, ooh, wait, that is
wasn't
not correct.
Wasn't it?
That was not.
Give me your plate.
Or even sometimes maybe somebody might leave a comment like, that's not necessarily true, inform us.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, inform us. Let's hear your opinion.
This
is not like a fight us thing. This is yes, let's learn. The only way we're going to learn and get better is if other people inform us. Okay,
we want to learn, but also if you're going to be like a little ignorant or something like that, then it's kind of just like...
if you're ignorant, don't go away. Try to learn.
Yeah. Try to learn. You might learn a new perspective. The most we can ask of you is that you open your mindset. Open mindset.
Open your ears. Open your ears.
Open your ears.
Open your ears. Okay.
Anyways, going back to...
Side tangent. Anyways, so... Oh, God. I'm so off track. I have no clue where I am. Okay. I talked about the uwuification of disability. So,
that's right.
So... I'll just read from directly what I wrote. When most people think of something like ADHD, they think, oh, look, a squirrel. And most people think of something like OCD, they think of being neat and orderly. When they think of dyslexia, they think of, oops, I misspelled organism as orgasm. I'm so quirky and cute. Oh my god. I've done that before. It was horrible. I wrote it on...
It feels like TikTok.
No, literally TikTok, though.
Oh, that was the thing I was going to mention earlier. And I think all of you guys were probably going to mention it. TikTok has a rampant issue of people faking... disabilities.
I just dismiss TikTok.
Disabilities and mental illnesses.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot with ADHD.
Ooh.
I don't think just on TikTok, just on all social media.
Yeah.
Because the trend, not just with disabilities, but just with everything. If people see a method on social media that gets them. That makes someone famous or gets them more followers, then people will do the same thing. So, for example, those videos are if you're seeing this TikTok right now, you are one of the chosen people who...
Yeah, I've gotten those.
Or those ones where it's click the plus button, aka the follow button, to see what it is.
Have you seen that one where it's I bet a huge amount of money you can't use as audio?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that.
But coming back to, what this podcast episode is about, that's very true. And, not only is it performative, but it's just, profiting off, an actual probable cause. That that you have really no affiliation with other than, you're using it to get money.
Yeah. That's the thing
or,
that... No, you continue.
But, I don't know if this might be a thing, but, people using siblings who have disabilities.
Yes.
Ooh, yeah.
Yes.
To
exploitation.
Exploiting, and just not ruining their lives, but just forcing them into doing things so.
Yeah.
Well,
they
if we're
can
talking
get
about child exploitation, that's a whole issue and a half. With
Off
off topic.
Off topic. Big issue, but off topic though.
Yeah, very off topic. But going back to TikTok, it just feels nasty.
Definitely.
It feels nasty. It is nasty.
Yeah. It's gross and it's disgusting that people are... What?
Just keep going.
Oh, okay. It just feels gross and disgusting, and it is that you're taking advantage of a group of people. Because I feel like these people don't understand. By you, doing this and faking it, you're creating a mockery of it. You're mocking these people. And for people who actually do have these disabilities, they're gonna go on living life and saying like, oh, I have, like ADHD, or oh, I'm autistic and stuff like that. But people are gonna be like, but you don't look like it, or like,
Right.
I follow this TikToker and they do that too, and it's like, these people are making a mockery of you and trying to profit off of a group of people that it's just like, it's awful.
The amount of times where I have like personal, but the amount of times that I've dealt with people who are like self-diagnosing through like TikToks and things like that is harmful, right? Because then you have people who believe that they have this disability when they don't, and they'll spread lies about said disability when they don't. I'm not trying to say, like, of course, under very specific circumstances, I guess some, like, okay, something is definitely wrong with me. Like, that's fine when you are like, by yourself. But it's like, you please get a professional opinion, double, triple check, it's just, yeah. I even, like, wrote part of this in my script where it's just like, so yeah, these caricatures of disability are so harmful because they make it seem like these disabilities are fun or quirky. Yeah. They're not fun. They're like destructive.
Like, they only show, I guess, like what they think is the good parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having.
Like as personal experiences, like ADHD is like hating myself because I can't move myself to clean. Dyslexia is getting in trouble because I couldn't remember a specific rule that was told to me, and anxiety is just lashing out people I like, but because I'm too scared to let them get close enough, It's just so much, like, that it's hard to, like, properly explain to you, or, like, anyone, that disabilities are not fun or quirky. They're disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Disabilities aren't a personality trait.
Yeah.
Yes, so true. They're not a
Exactly.
personality trait. I hate when people do that.
Like it's the same thing with sexuality as well, which I'm pretty sure Deja will probably get into
Yeah.
in her episode.
Woo!
Yeah.
But
Watch out, episode 4.
It has episode 3. Oh yeah, no, episode 4.
it's 4.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, episode 4.
But like these things, like you can control them, I assume, to some certain extent. Or,
You control in quotation marks.
Yeah, but like I'm relating it back to, like, I guess sexuality and stuff, where people are like, oh, being gay is a choice. And I feel like that it's the same thing with a disability, like, where it's like, it's not a choice, it's something that just kind of
It's
happens.
just something it's something you have.
Yeah. I mean, at least with, like, mental disabilities, like, I can speak from, I'm not sure about, like, physical disabilities, as I can't speak, for that. But with mental disabilities, sure, physically, I can get myself to get up. Physically, I can pick up the things in my room and organize them and make everything perfect and nice. Physically, I can get that assignment done on time. But if I do it, the amount of, like, mental toll it takes on me to do that is so much. So I guess I do see, like, the similarities between, like, sexuality and, like, disability. It's just, like, I'm not trying to say sexuality is disability. Don't take that out of context, I swear to God. But it's just that part where people are like, just be normal, in quotation, normal. But being normal isn't easy.
Yeah.
It's not. Well, most people's definition of normal is not what's, well, people. It's not what humans are, Yeah. Okay, time to go to examples. Woo, examples. Do you need to cut?
No.
Okay.
Of, like, bad or, like, good?
Okay, so this first one is kind of bad. Woo. So this one is from Clone High. This show is, once again, it was made a while ago. Also, so South Park, which in our good representation, we'll get to that. Clone High, ADD. The last D is for disorder. That's the name of the episode. So Gandhi from Clone High, which is like, the premise of the show is basically,
I don't know this.
Okay, I'll give the premise of the show is that a bunch of famous people got their DNA taken and clones made of them, right? And their clones are now in high school. Clone High.
Yeah.
It's a very weird premise, right? So Gandhi from Clone High apparently has ADD, which is now an outdated term for inattentive ADHD, right? So in this episode, the ADD in quotation mark for ADHD, inattentive ADHD, is used as a euphemism for AIDS. You can see where the problem is here. So a lot of people, it's just like, oh, I'm gonna catch it and things like that. It's just like, that's not how it works, right?
Oh.
And it was meant to be somewhat educational about, like, you should talk to people. I think it was meant to poke fun at it. What?
No.
It was meant to poke fun at, like, this like the things about actual AIDS by replacing with ADD, but by doing that they like kind of provided a lot of bad like ammo for people who want to make fun of people with like ADHD and ADD, because in the show Gandhi himself was very like all over the place. He can't sit still. He's constantly twitching and like looking around. He can't focus. He can't be serious at all. And then they had that moment where they pull in like an actor who actually has a disability. Like, hey guys, I have that disability, and I'm like super actor and I'm cool, you know. But it turns out this actor, like, they're poking fun at him too by having him get distracted. It's this moment where he has a book and he's just like lick the book, and he goes to a chicken. It's like I can see how like by itself. Yeah, I guess kind of funny. I guess I get like they're trying to be funny, but it's also like it also has a bad story about like people with ADHD. And I've talked a lot about like ADHD and things like that. And I do want to mention that this isn't like I'm not trying to compare like struggles, but it's compared to the amount of bad things that are said about people who have Tourette's, OCD, and schizophrenia, which have been outright demonized. I will not be diving too deep into specifics about that because I genuinely will start to cry with the bad representation around like things like schizophrenia because it hurts like me to like hear and see. Ellie, do you want to say something?
Oh yes, because I feel like this will only trigger me, but like Bellathorn.
Oh.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
Yeah.
What happened?
So Disney Channel used to have this thing where it's like the time and it was just like the time I climbed a mountain, the time I rode a bike, and then Bella Thorne, ex Disney Channel star, starring on Shake It Up with Zendaya, you know, my homegirl. But they did one about on the time I realized I had dyslexia.
Is this the one that everyone memed?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Something about a cereal box. I really don't remember. But I don't know if that was good representation. Because like one of my best friends, shout out Chloe if you're listening to this, love you shouty. But she has dyslexia, and I guess like it's not really my place to speak on it.
I have dyslexia if that would help.
Well, like you could probably look up the commercial. It's probably on there with like millions of views. But I don't think it's like the best representation because it's like, oh, I'm a normal white girl, but there's something wrong with me.
Oh yeah, that's another thing that I wanted to mention where it's just like when people are like the typical person displayed with a disability, they're a good-looking white person.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother topic of like representation, but it's also like the normal person. They're normal in every way except they have a disability, and it's just like it cuts out so many people when people do that.
And that's what Disney did in that time. They probably still do it now because, well, from my perspective, Disney Channel specifically hasn't really touched on disabilities.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so dyslexia, it's not just mixing up words. It's mixing up things a lot. Dyslexia itself has not been studied that well. I think it's a mixture of a lot of different things. Personally, that's my theory. But I think a lot of it is just like not being able to take in information well. This is from my perspective. I'm kind of just guessing now, but this is from my experience with dyslexia. It's like you take in information and it gets a little discombobulated, you know? So you'll get instructions, but you'll do them out of order. Or you'll read something, but you'll remember it different than when you read it, right? So this is just like from my experience of what, you know. And I remember seeing the memes about it. I know for a fact that the memes were definitely harmful because the amount of people who were like, OMG, dyslexia, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, that's not it, you know?
What I was saying was, I think what I remember from the commercial, because I only saw it a few times when I was like 13. I'm 18 now for reference, but like they tried to make it seem like it was only like mixing letters up.
Oh my god.
In different words, and like they were like, oh, that's the one thing. Like, reading. It's only with reading. But like, it's not from what you've explained.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not. I do like when I was younger, I would definitely confuse B and D a lot lowercase. The way I remembered it is that like oh god, it's really embarrassing if I mess it up. But like the B, like when you write the capital B and a lowercase b, the B is facing away from the big B, and that the D is facing it towards it. So it's like the B is angry, but the D is nice. You know, that's how I remembered it. And other than that, I would definitely confuse them a lot, right? but I think it's also having to do with like because they're similar, right? So it's not just the reading; it's also like I said, So it's not just the reading, but it's also like instructions, taking things out of order. I don't have an example like out of my pocket, but well, I do. So a dance teacher, I would always mess up the moves, right? And I could never figure out why. And the reason is because she would give them all at once at the beginning.
Oh, and then be like, okay, figure it out.
Literally though,
I
she
thought
would
it
do
was
that.
always like just like step by step. It's like you guys practice this first step first, and once you get into the hang of it, then you practice the second.
Good dance teachers? Do you think that teacher?
She was scary. I mean, I thought everyone was scary at that age because I was undiagnosed anxiety. But
well, I feel like not regular dance teachers, but like what most dance teachers do is like they'll teach you like one count, and then they're like, okay, I'll show you like the moves.
Yeah.
And then like, okay, let's do that up with tempo, and then okay, let's do that with music. Are we good? Any questions? Okay, move on.
So thing is, sometimes she would do that too, right? So typically she would give us all at once, then she'd go by step, right?
Oh, okay.
But the thing is with the step by step is I'd learn this part, right? Then she'd add another part, right? Then I'd forget this first part. Then she'd add another part. And I'd be confused, and I started crying in the restroom because I had no clue what was happening, So it was just, why don't I know what's happening? But this is because dyslexia.
Wait,
I don't know what's
would
happening.
you practice each part by itself?
Yeah, you would practice each part by itself, and by the time we finish one part, I'll forget the first part. Which is like, yeah. Dyslexia is like not fun. Try not to focus too much on the negative because once again, it was hard to find examples in general because a lot of representation for disability is like non-existent. I brought South Park up earlier, but I want to bring it up again. For one,
Park brain rot.
literally though, brain rot. But so at the very I think it was like season 2 or season 5 around there. But there's an episode called "The Conjoined Fetus Lady," right? And South Park, of course, has its moments of like making fun of everything. They're kind of just like we hate everyone equally. That's that's South Park, right? So they have an episode where basically they reveal quote unquote the school nurse who has a conjoined fetus attached to her head. And of course that's very out there, it's very exaggerated. And of course because they're kids, they like are confused, they scream, they're like, oh, what the heck? So one of the main characters, Kyle's mom, her name is Sheila, I think. She gets very like, I'm so sorry about my son. We should really like appreciate people like you and tell everyone that you're normal. And she's like, really, I don't mind. He's just trying to make sense of it. He's just a boy, right? She's like, no, I insist we do something about it. So it gets like, it starts ramping up, right? Where she like starts a whole parade for her. There's a day celebrated for the conjoined fetus lady, right? It's conjoined fetus day, and right? And I just want to be normal. I just want to be treated normal like everyone else. And of course by the end, South Park has its own, fuck you, where it's just like, she explains, I want to be normal. I want to be normal. She says that. And she's like, you guys are all crazy. I'm out, and they're like, man, she's so ungrateful, because, South Park.
There are always episodes and shows like that.
Yeah, but she's just, I just want to be treated like you guys, right? And, but that's such a great episode, because it really, ties back to that, like, performative of, like, I want other people to think I'm great, so I'm gonna be, or, like, once again, the inspiration, adult content, of just, like, I am so great because I did this for this poor person who can't do it for themselves, And I think I love that episode. It's so funny, it's great. But it is old South Park, but whatever. But yeah. So, another positive representation. I want to talk about Dory from Finding Dory.
Yay!
It does have its moments that are a little bit iffy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially because there's a moment where like it was a moment that was played for a gag, but it was really gross. Where there's a seal who was nonverbal, right? And the other seals were like, "Hey, give us your pail." He's like, "Hey, you want to sit on the rock?" So they invite the little seal who's a nonverbal onto the rock. They steal his pail and they kick him off the rock.
Aww.
And it's like, I felt so bad. It's played to be funny, but I felt so bad. I remember in movies, I seeing that, I was like, no! That's so mean! I was so upset about it. I know, like, it's meant for a gag, but I got so upset about it. Anyways, but Finding Dory, the story is about her. And that's one of the things that, like, especially in disability, I know I'm talking a lot, but especially in disabilities, it's typically focused around the people around them, how people around them are affected by their disability, not really about the person themselves. And Finding Dory, it does a great job of showing Dory's perspective and Dory's, like, her point of view. And a lot of it had, like, another great point in Finding Dory is, like, accessibility, where it's just, like, we have to make do, and it's normal for us to make do. It's normal for us to, like, put things together and improvise and things like that. And it's a great movie. Besides that one moment, probably was something else in there too, but I'm not gonna don't remember it. So yeah, Finding Dory, things like that. Woo. But that's pretty much like the end. So overarching, I know I've talked a lot, but going to wrap it up soon. I just want to give like an overview of what I said, and you guys can talk. So overview: bad representation tends to trivialize or lower like or change expectations. They tend to trivialize and change expectations of people with disabilities. We're not meant to be something that we're not meant to be gawked at. We're not different. We are different in the way that we don't do things the same way, but we are human. And good representation, I think, acknowledges that. That's my closing thoughts of the podcast. I know I did a lot of talking, which is I wish, but I think it's something that like I wanted to say that like I know this is something that you guys don't have a lot of experience, or I don't, I'm speaking for you, but like I know it's something that's like we had more to say in the gender norms one because unfortunately we all have gender. I mean, unfortunate for me, but unfortunately we all have a gender.
But we've all been affected by like the negative representation.
So this one was of course a little bit personal to me. Thank you guys for listening, of course. You guys have any final thoughts?
There needs to be more representation about disability in entertainment. It's kind of getting a little
It's giving me the ick.
Yeah, it's giving
it's getting a little neurotypical in here. Just saying.
It's getting a little it's not
pushing P.
Yeah, it's not. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that we need more representation about disability in media. That's not just like the overarching like look how hyper intelligent this person is, or like the burden you have to go through to take care of somebody who has a disability, like that. It's like we don't need that anymore. Please give us more better representation, and like give us better representation, not only just exclusive to entertainment. When I talk about entertainment, I'm talking about like movies and TV shows. Transfer it to like things like video games, comics, books.
Yes.
Please. Novels, all that other stuff. Give me a good game, please. There's so many games I need to finish, but you know. And anybody else's closing thoughts?
Yes. Okay. Completely honest, I'm so glad we had this episode. Literally, I had like no clue, or not no clue, but like not as much knowledge about all this stuff, especially what you were talking about, Marianne. Like, go off.
Yeah, pop off.
Because like I know a lot of the stuff I've seen doesn't really like have that good representation with disability, or like none at all. So like hearing everything everybody has said is like really cool. I feel like.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit undermined in my opinion. But yeah. So that's it. Podcast out or whatever. Do we have an outro?
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Do your own research.
Yeah.
Yes. Tune in
next time
when it's me,
Allie's episode on
racism.
Ooh, that's a big topic.
Race and ethnicity. Racism.
Wait, actually, my doc is titled this. I don't remember what it's titled exactly.
It's like POC representation.
It's POC representation in media with a hint of racism.
Woo.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be more than a hint.
Because,
Anyway, thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. Please follow our YouTube channel.
Oh, that's what you think. No.
Yeah. Thank you.
Where's the camera?
Thank you for listening. Please follow our YouTube channel. We have an Instagram.
Like and subscribe.
We have an Instagram coming soon. So once that's out, please follow us and hope us the best of luck with the senior project. Please, we need it.
Like you said, we need.
We need it. Bye.